Well, good morning and welcome to Coach's Corner on this snowy Saturday morning. As the sun has come out, though the dreariness maybe has gone away, but the reality is that it got a white blanket on it, and I think we fared much better than others to the south of us. I know I was looking at some of the totals mid-late last night, 8-9 o'clock-ish, and some of the places we're talking 17 inches, etc. So feel fortunate. Get out there, get those sidewalks cleaned off, and hopefully I see the weather back up into the mid-30s next week, but it looks like some more snow coming along the way. Of course, locally last night, the only games that were scheduled was Rainy River women's and men's basketball. We're supposed to go to Ely. Obviously, due to the weather, those games were postponed. And what's going to happen there, they were supposed to play a 2-day tournament. Those games are going to be made up. The Itasca games that were supposed to be played today will be scheduled. The men will go to Grand Rapids this coming Monday at 5:30. The women will go to Itasca on Tuesday, November 29th, so that they make sure that they get those games played along the way. The games against Gogebic out of Ironwood, Michigan, those games will be scheduled probably at a time to come, and it looks like, according to AD Mel Millerburn, those games very possibly will be played right here in International Falls. High school football kind of dominating the scene right now. It's the state semifinals going on yesterday at US Bank Stadium. 5 games took place. Grand Meadow, the 3-time defending 9-man state champion, they defeat Waubun 35-0. Caledonia, they've had a powerhouse program for years and years and years. They defeat Barnesville 55-20 in 2A football. Elk River in 5A, they showed that they can run the football. I'm so excited to get a chance to watch them next week in the Prep Bowl. They down Owatonna 19-7. In 4A football, Winona edges Rocori 34-27, and Eden Prairie looking to get back up on top of Section 6A football. They defeat Champlain Park 23-0. So in the big schools, that sets up Eden Prairie versus Totino Grace. It ought to be a dandy next Friday night down at US Bank Stadium. Today, 5 more state semifinal games going on. 2 of them in 1A football. Rushford Peterson versus Browerville Grey Eagle. Minneapolis North against Wabasso. In 3A football, Rochester Lords against Dilworth Linden Felton, and St. Croix Lutheran takes on Piers. Remember, Piers down Greenway, Nashwauk, Keewatin, the representative from Section 7A. And then in the nightcap, in 5A football, Mankato West versus Spring Lake Park. A couple of girls hockey games last night of note from the area. Grand Rapids Greenway over Roseville 3-1, and Proctor Hermantown 3-2 better than St. Paul United. Let's move on to the college ranks in college hockey last night. Denver and Miami in the NCHC skate to a 1-1 tie. North Dakota 4-0 over St. Cloud State. Minnesota Duluth over Omaha, and Dean Blaze's team down in Omaha by a score of 6-4. Bemidji State edges Northern Michigan 2-1, and Mankato defeats Minnesota by a score of 4-1. And people who know me know that I'm a UMD Bulldogs fan, and I like to see the Gophers lose and whatever else. But I read on the Star Tribune this morning that the Gophers are 1-15 against the in-state opponents in their last 16 games over the last 3 seasons. 1-15. That is that's a tough stat if you are a Gopher hockey fan. In women's hockey last night, Bemidji State 6-2 over St. Cloud State. Ohio State 2-1 over Mankato. Minnesota and North Dakota skate to a 2-2 tie, and Minnesota wins in the shootout, and a big upset last night as far as I'm concerned. Number 3 UMD over number 1 Wisconsin 4-1, although Wisconsin was missing their starting goaltender. In NCAA volleyball last night, the number 2 nationally ranked University of Minnesota, it took them 5 sets. They won the first 2, but they come back and they win 18-16 in set 5 over Michigan State. Michigan State actually had a match point at 16-15. The Gophers are 22-4, and they get Michigan this evening in Big Ten play. The University of Minnesota women's basketball team improved to 3-0 on the season as they beat Georgetown 68-60 last night at Williams Arena. Carly Wagner, no surprise, she's leading the way in the scoring department, 21 points, and Kanisha Bell had a double-double with 10 points and 10 rebounds. Sticking with basketball, the Gopher men's basketball team improved to 4-0. Amir Coffey, freshman Amir Coffey, 30 points in the 92-86 win over St. John's. Dupree McBrayer had 18 points. Nate Mason added 13. If you've been following along with the Gophers, those are very familiar names. And how about Reggie Lynch? He had 11 rebounds and 9 block shots. That's an incredible number. St. John's did lead by 13 points more than halfway through the first half, so the Gophers really had to come back and do a job at home. In baseball news yesterday, the Twins did something that I think a lot of people maybe were expecting was going to happen earlier, later. I'm not exactly sure. I think this is a good move. People out there might disagree with me, but the Twins outright released Trevor Plouffe yesterday. They tried to trade him at the GM meetings here in the past couple of weeks. There was some nibbles out there, but nobody willing to give anything up. I think they knew the Twins were going to have to do something, and they decided to just absolutely outright just cut him. He's a free agent and will sign with some other team and probably be a pretty good third baseman. The Twins also let outfielder Adam Walker go. He's hit 25 home runs each of the last 4 seasons in the minor leagues, but according to one source, he is a strikeout king in the same thing. Struck out 202 times last year in the Twins organization. He's now a Milwaukee Brewer. What's going on today locally? Well, the Bronco girls basketball team, they've had their first week of practice. They are down in Virginia today for a scrimmage. I believe that's where they are. Coach Boyle told me that he would give me a text if they weren't going. That scrimmage starts at 10 a.m. against Virginia, Hibbing, Mesabi East, and Evelyn Gilbert. In college football today, the Gophers versus Northwestern at 2:30. I'm sure they'll have had to clear some of the snow off of TCF. That game can be seen on the Big Ten Network. St. John's and Wisconsin-Platteville in the first round of the Division III playoffs. That game starts at noon. St. Thomas takes on Northwestern of St. Paul. I think Northwestern will have to go about 3 miles to take part in that playoff game. That game also at noon. UMD in Division II, they're down in Kansas taking on Emporia State at 1 o'clock. North Dakota State against South Dakota ought to be a dandy game. You can watch that game on Midco Sports Network. That game starts at 2 o'clock. One top 25 matchup tonight to keep your eye on: Oklahoma, number 9, versus number 13, West Virginia. The Minnesota Wild, of course, get back into action after their 1-0 win on a kind of a fluky goal the other night over Boston. They're at home tonight against Colorado. Pre-game at 6:45 and dropping puck just after 7 o'clock on your home for Wild Hockey, 12:30, KGHS 12:30 a.m. Timberwolves are at Memphis tonight at 7 o'clock. They owe Memphis a little payback from a game that Memphis came from behind and took away from them earlier in the year. And I know, folks, Timberwolves have done a lot of that this year, but they need to, I think, going to learn from those mistakes, and they're going to be able to come up with things that they need to do. The Minnesota Vikings tomorrow afternoon try to stop their 4-game skid. They're at home against the 4-4-1 Arizona Cardinals. Pre-game at 11 o'clock on K104, and kickoff is at noon. In other NFC North action, Detroit hosts Jacksonville at noon. Chicago is at the New York Giants at noon. And the Packers, how do they always seem to get to play not the noon game? They always play at 3:25, or they're playing on a Monday night or a Sunday night. Somebody really likes Aaron Rodgers. I can't imagine why. Anyway, the Pack is at Washington as they play in the Sunday night game at 7:30. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back with the head coach of the International Falls Boys Bronco hockey team. That is George McDonald. You're listening to Coach's Corner. And welcome back to Coach's Corner for our second segment this morning. And joining me this morning, head coach George McDonald of the International Falls Boys Bronco hockey team. Coach, year 2, 1 week under your belt. We've got our playoff beards in form. We got our No Shave November going. How'd the first week of practice go?
First week went pretty good. We think the kids were excited to be back, and coaches were excited, so it went really well. We had a lot of fun and got some work done, and so it was good.
You know, I obviously coached along the way, but I've never coached hockey before. So what do you try to get done in that first week of practice? Is it more getting the legs in the shape? Do we work on what are the things that you work on that first week of practice so you can kind of get that base and then move on to things? Because I assume that there weren't too many the systems and all the power plays. I would guess that stuff is next week and later on.
Yeah, well, it's crazy how fast 2 weeks will go before your first game, because like you say, there's systems to work on. There's power play, man short, forechecks, D-zone coverage, neutral zone forecheck. I mean, there's everything. And as a coach, you try to panic. And I told the guys the other day, we just got to relax and one thing at a time, and realize we're not going to get it all done in 2 weeks. So I think for us, it was more of getting the legs underneath you, once a year starts, which will be a week from next Friday, you have two games a week, so it's very hard to get your legs in. I mean, as far as the conditioning part. So we've been working really hard on conditioning and puck skills and puck movement. Get the legs back under us, get the hands back. It takes a while, So we did a lot of skill work this week, but we also near the end of the week started put some, temporary line combinations together. Did some line rushes, got into a little bit of D-zone coverage, especially, as we always say, take care of our own end first. So we started with that, and we'll just progress through this next week, and whatever we get done by the time we play Virginia is what we have. We're not going to panic about it.
Yeah, I suspect most of the kids probably have been skating somewhere, either at Carey Park or Bronco Arena. I'm sure there's been time during the first couple of weeks, so that obviously gave them a little bit of an edge, but I'm sure the skating that they weren't doing there probably didn't have quite the intensity that you want them to have, correct?
Oh, that is correct, yeah. And after football season, you like to give those kids a week or so to heal up and take a little mental break and stuff. So we don't push those kids to get on their skates right away. But yeah, we always tell the captains at captain's practice, end with a good skate. But how that goes, I will never really know.
Exactly right. So let's talk about the kids that are coming back to this team. Let's start with the seniors and who should probably be the leaders of this team for the 16-17 season.
Well, we have actually like 8 seniors this year, which is very, very good. And we got we got Riley Nemec back and Tyler Caulfield, Brandon Podpesker, Brett Lindvall, Brady Wright, Brock O'Loughlin. Those guys logged a lot of ice time for us last year.
Sure.
So, and we also got Ben Luchek, who's coming off an injury from football that we hope to get back soon. And Aaron Bennett and Kyle Schobel in the net will be competing for a spot. So we got a good nucleus of seniors there that played a lot in the past, and we look for big things from them.
Well, I think the biggest thing is some of those kids have been playing. This will be really their 3rd season of regular action on the forward or the defensive line. So that has to give you a little comfort going into the year that you have that kind of experience.
Yeah, now this is, like you say, my 2nd year, so they've learned what I have on the plate as far as system goes last year, and hopefully we can build on that. But yeah, these kids have played a lot of hockey, and they've been working extremely hard, and so far proved to be very good leaders. All the seniors, regardless of whether they got a CN or not, they've been working extremely hard. And I asked them to come with me today, Mr. Ringhofer, but we have that big Bronco buck contest going that they want to try to win, so they're not around today.
Well, I understand that. I don't mind early in the season. I like having the kids on, but also it's good just to get the coach's version of things and have a chance to chat. Let's talk about the juniors. Who's out there that maybe logged some JV time last year and maybe only saw partial varsity time, excuse me.
Well, last year, Ethan Allman became a steady defenseman for us, and of course we had Trevor Beckvar back, who had a very good season last year, as did Ethan, and they both, pretty much played every other shift last year as sophomores. So we're looking for big things from those two. They have Kane Koscheck back, who we usually play in the middle. We saw a lot of action last year. Good with the puck. We look to him as being a scoring kind of guy.
Seems that him and his brother are very good at face-offs. I seem to remember that from last year. You get them in the circle at a face-off, they seem to have a knack for it.
Yeah, they do, and they're hockey knowledgeable. Both Chris and Kane, they love
absolutely.
Hockey. Of course, they got Sheehy in them, and so they know what's going on at the pro ranks and the teams. And the only thing that bothered me about Chris, who was last year, was a Philadelphia Flyers fan.
Ooh.
We tangled a little bit there. But then we got Gus Lawrenson, who played a lot for us last year, and Gus has got a very good shot, and we're looking for big things out of Gus on both sides of the puck. And Barrett Kaler played for us last year. Jacob Smith, somewhat. We look for more ice time out of Jacob this year. Josh Can is another one. Owen Amundsen. They both played a lot of JV hockey, and they were up and down periodically with the varsity as well. And then we have Trimble Butler and Sam Maxwell, Dietrich Hall, and then of course we got Jake Clow in the net.
Sure. So how about sophomores? Who who's coming off the Bantam team that I probably know the name, but I probably haven't seen play a whole bunch of hockey?
Yeah, well, Simon Palm has moved up, as well as Joe Glowak and Carter Germain.
Sure.
Some sophomores that we have. All three have worked extremely hard in practice, and I think although they'll probably start, maybe JV and varsity a little bit until we can get a good look at them, but they've been practicing very well, and they all have a very good chance.
It seems to me that one of the decisions I remember making as a coach, and you probably do, is finding those combinations. Being an offensive line coach, you always wanted to take. You kind of had who maybe your top 5 or 6 or 7 linemen were, but you had to find which spot was the best so that they all work together best. You talked about it a little bit earlier about maybe starting to put some line combinations together. Do you kind of feel like maybe that is one of the most important coaching decisions you can make on who to put out there together so that they are all pulling in the same direction?
Yeah, I think so, and there's a lot of factors that go in that. I mean, you can beat yourself up over it constantly, as I think a lot of coaches do, but I think it's good at the beginning to move things around, shift around, and we pretty much the first day we do our line combination, throw the jerseys out and see what they choose. Kids kind of throw their own lines together, and then we go from there. It gives us a starting point anyway, but some kids maybe aren't as good with the puck, but they're quick, they're physical, they're intelligent, they'll play a system well. And another guy might maybe have a knack for the net. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it. So yeah, we're going to experiment a little bit and see what we got. And we have 25 games to figure it out. So hopefully we'll get it down right by playoff time. But we also have a few freshmen this year. In here, Travis Kaler and Jaden Podpesker, Anthony Sari. Those are all 9th graders that are with us this year.
Okay. So, yeah, and one thing I talking about the lines, I was talking with Coach Bolstead the other night, and he talked about with the girls team about putting Lexi Erickson, Lexi Edwards, and Amber Thielander together, and I said, why put those 3 players together? And he said, well, Ringer, he says, one of the best things you can do is you can have a really fast skater, you got a grinder, and you got somebody who can really handle the puck. He said, well, those 3 girls can do all that. Is it something where that's something that you look at as well as a coach, that you're looking to kind of find different players on each line? Or do you I guess I kind of always thought, and again, not being a hockey coach, that you kind of put 3 kids out there that are kind of that maybe have the same skill level and can do the things together that mesh together. What kind of things do you look for, especially in a forward line?
Well, yeah, it's like I said, there's so many different factors into it. There's personality things. There's who's vocal, who's not. We talk about communication on the ice all the time. The 3 things that you just mentioned, Coach Bolstead talked about. It's all different. You might have a power play and you want a good man with the puck handling it down the rink, and maybe you got a not so quick player with them. That's okay too sometimes, but they might have a lot of puck mobility. So it just depends, and sometimes when you think you got it figured out, and then all of a sudden it goes the opposite way on you, and you got to try something else. So I think sometimes when you change lines, it kind of gets people a little fired up for a little bit. I know I watch NHL quite a bit now, and they juggle lines all the time, and it seems like all those guys are big, strong, fast. And
I agree. And it seems to me that coaches are trying to not let the guy get comfortable, make sure they're staying sharp mentally and physically. I think that's a big part of it. Let's talk about the first part of the schedule. Have to play a weekend series, and I noticed that there's a few of those on the schedule. But this coming Friday and Saturday have 2 home games. The Friday night after Thanksgiving, you get Virginia in a big IRC battle right off the bat, and then you get St. Paul Highland Park. How do you get them to come up here 2 years in a row? Is what I want to know. You must have something on somebody. Go ahead.
Well, yeah. First of all, we got Virginia, and of course that's a big game right off the bat for us. I think they're having a few scrimmages down there today. But last year, I think the first game we ended up a tie with them, I believe, an overtime tie, and then they got us later in the year, which was a game that I felt we could have easily won. Putting the puck in the net last year was somewhat of a problem. So, when you ask what we've been working on, it's a lot of getting the puck to the net and crashing the net and hitting the brakes and getting those dirty goals that we need to do. But Virginia had a very good goalie last year. He was, I believe, he was a Finnish 6'5" kid that we knew nothing about him until we got to Virginia. But he was very good, and he's gone now. But I believe they had a very good Bantam team last year, so they should have some good young kids moving up.
Sure.
And they had some skilled kids last year, underclassmen. So I look for them to be very good and a very big challenge for us right away.
Sure.
Saturday we have Highland Park, and that is the Oren connection to the Falls. The Jimmy Oren, Pat Oren, that whole Oren crew. He's got a lot of Falls ties, so he likes to bring his team up here, and I think he brings them out to his hunting cabin area, and they walk around the woods, and he shows them all about the Falls. And they started coming up last year and had a very good time and wanted to come back. So that's super.
So you take advantage of that, and then you get another one of those former Broncos. You get Tony Kuchar the following Friday at home. You ever been to Little Falls to play? No, but Tony loves to come home, and it's one of those trips that he makes a dual whammy out of it. Probably plays Virginia on Saturday or somebody else on Saturday. So another one of those early season road trips where they get out on the road and have to sit in a bus for hours and hours and get to know each other. So always a good game with Little Falls though as well.
Yeah, Little Falls, we had a great game with them last year. We went to overtime and it was a very good game. And I think you're right. Coach likes to come home, see his parents and bring his team up to where he grew up and where his roots are. But they do stop on the range and they're back, either Virginia or Hibbing, and play on a Saturday. So that's their little swing of the year, and it's great to have Coach back. He does a great job, and they're a very disciplined team. And we tell in the playoffs last year they did quite well. They knocked a big team off. They upset someone. So it's always good to have Coach back, and that's always a great battle between Falls and Little Falls.
Following Friday, you get Hibbing down on the range. We'll have that one on K104 and KSDMradio.com. Of course, there's always a measuring stick there with the Hibbing Blue Jackets.
Yeah, of course. Hibbing is always tough. They have been forever. I mean, they seem to come up with decent numbers in their youth program, and they have a very good program. They had two outstanding players last year in the goaltender and the defenseman, whom I think may have parted ways and went different directions, but it doesn't matter. Hibbing's always tough. They'll always give you a good game, and it's always a fierce battle with Hibbing, and we always look forward to it.
Absolutely, and of course, speaking of battles, of course, you got a big one right before Christmas on December 23rd. Fort Francis comes to Bronco Arena for the first time in a couple of years. I know there was talk about trying to get two with them. I think that's off the table. I think you've got a full schedule, correct?
No, we actually have a home and away with Fort Francis this year. Yeah, we're going to be home with Fort. Help me out, December 23rd, and then we are going over to their place sometime in January, similar to what we did last year. I believe it's kind of an odd, it's like a Monday game or something. But we went over there last year and we had a great game with them. Everything went extremely well, and I'm glad to have that home and away series back because it's a great rivalry, and I think if you will ask any of our kids, it's one of the games they look forward to most of the year. It's a borderline rivalry, and it's great to have them back.
And of course, and not to bring up negative things, but one of the things that you were asked to do in your schedule was pare the schedule down, make it less travel money-wise, to make some cuts in the program. Obviously, adding a game that you've got to go about 3 miles from arena to arena obviously helps out with that, and again, it really helps out the rivalry, the two communities, I won't say the controversy, the interest in it. It's huge, and let's hope that the kids and everybody that participates in it, not just the kids but the fans as well, do as well as they did last year, because everybody who had a piece in that really made it happen.
It did, and that's so important. The players and student body and fans and everything, they were outstanding last year over at Fort. We hope that carries over, and I think it will. We also have Dryden coming this year. I'm not so sure that we've ever played Dryden in high school, at least that I can ever remember in my tenure with the Broncos. But we have Dryden coming this year. We were 1 game short, and they wanted to come up and play us, or down and play us, I should say. So we're looking forward to seeing something different there.
We actually had played Dryden once, and I won't remember the year, but they came down for our holiday tournament that we used to have back in the 90s, and we actually played them, and we actually beat them in that game. Well, I could even find the year if we want to take a moment and we can talk for a second. I would guess that it was in the Kevin Gordon era, maybe. We'll see if I can find it as I look through the history book here. Here it is, 1997. After they beat them 4-1, and they went 3-0 in the holiday tournament. They beat Winnipeg, Sanford Collegiate, Dryden, and Fort Francis all in those 3 days. Gave up 3 goals in 3 days back at the holiday tournament in 1997. So good to have the history book with you when you ask those types of questions, George.
That's great. I didn't remember that. I was around, but
yeah.
I guess I don't remember playing Dryden. But anyway, that should be should be pretty good. We're excited.
You got goalies. Where are we going with that?
Well, I think we have 3 goalies this year. 1 or 2 coming back, and Kyle Schoblum's back with us here as Wyatt Amdahl and Jake Clow. And Wyatt and Jake both saw some varsity time last year, and I just think that they've created a great battle for themselves there. It's very competitive so far.
Well, and I'll say it's a great battle for them, but it's a bigger decision for you because, and I guess I always look at it, coaches always take, and not that this is the wrong, George, that they take the easy way out. They let the kids play it out. Early on in the year, I would suspect we'll see some alternating and some, you play this game, you play that game, and usually one of them brings it to the top, but it's almost better if one doesn't, because that makes them keep having to prove every day in practice.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You look for, the teams that are very successful, whether it be high school or pros or whatever, it's competing for jobs. That pushes you harder, pushes you to another level. And these 3 guys definitely have a battle going on. We are scrimmaging Lake of the Woods on Tuesday here, and so we'll get a chance to look at all 3 of them on that day. All 3 of them will play, and it's just a little different in a game than in practice maybe, but they're competing very hard. And like I said, Jake Clow is a hard worker, as Wyatt Amdahl and Kyle Schoblum. All those guys are great workers, great competitors. So they'll work. It's going to be like you say, a difficult decision for us, but it's going to make all 3 of them better.
What time does the scrimmage start on Tuesday? If people want to come out and watch a little Bronco hockey.
Yeah, it is a scrimmage. It's a controlled scrimmage, no scoreboard, no refs, no jerseys, that sort of thing. But practice time is from 4 to 6 on Tuesday. So it's more of a practice, coaches and I blow things dead, explain things, work on some of those systems things we talked about earlier that we really haven't gotten to.
Coach, I appreciate your time, enjoying the rest of your weekend, and we're looking forward to the start of the hockey season and getting the Broncos going with some wins.
Thank you very much.
George McDonald joining me here this morning. We'll take a break and we'll come back with the interview I did with the girls basketball team a couple days ago. You're listening to Coach's Corner, live from Hardy. Welcome back to Coach's Corner for our next segment, joined by head coach Jay Boyle and I remember Emma Gilbert of the Falls girls basketball team. And Coach, you've got a few days of practices, 2 days underneath your belt. How are things looking?
Things have been going pretty good. I've been very happy with our practices so far. They've been pretty high pace, pretty high energy. We've tried to do a lot of running, and the girls have taken it well. They haven't complained too much about any of it, so definitely within reason. And yeah, I'm very happy about the start that we're off to.
So from that message there, I would say, from that answer there, I would say that you're trying to be even more up-tempo than what I've seen in the past, what everybody has seen in the past. Is that the reason for all the running, or are there other things that you're trying to accomplish?
I think that we're going to be up-tempo, but one of the biggest things that we've been going for is that with the experience that our girls have, we should be able to play different styles depending on what type of game we need to play. So we'd like to be able to play up-tempo against the teams that we can play up-tempo against, but if the sizes are advantage our game, then be able to slow it down too, not be slated totally into one type of basketball. This team should be experienced enough to do that. The biggest thing I'd say about the reason for the running is that I felt in the past that a lot of times that the teams that have beat us in the past are the teams that they're usually in better shape than we are. And we're going to do our best to see that that doesn't happen this year.
So those teams that we're referencing are, let's be more specific about who we're trying to catch up to.
The MIBs, the Rozos, Pequots. Those would be the teams that we're trying to catch up to.
I think I knew the answer to that, but I had to hear it come out of your mouth. Emma, do you see things changing in the first few days of practice, or does it seem to be that things have kind of stayed the same minus the extra running?
Well, definitely in captain's practice, it's been, our passes were just god awful, but now we've been doing a lot of drills to help us with that, and it's gotten a lot better.
This team, as Coach mentioned, Emma, has a lot of experience. You guys have been playing together. You've had great success since you guys were little basketball players.
Well, they were never that little.
Fourth, fifth. They were never this little, Coach?
They were never that little.
Okay. Well, when they were this little, then maybe when they were in 5th and 6th grade, you guys had great success. Is that a good thing, or does that put pressure on this team to maintain that level of success? How do you feel about that, Emma, where that past success now translates into the future?
I think it's definitely a big thing for us. We've been able to play with each other for a long time, so we know how each other handle pressure and stress and all that other stuff, and it's just a way that we can help each other through it. It is a little nerve-wracking or whatever, just so to see everyone still wanting to win and still wanting to work hard every day. So.
The goals for this team, obviously, this is a team that has been very, very successful, 20-plus win seasons over the past. I didn't look it up before we started the interview. I think it's 4 years off the top of my head. Section championship game appearances. Emma, where has this team put its goals at, or has that not even been discussed yet?
Us captains, we put it pretty high. I think we're really hoping to get to the final round and hopefully make a run at state.
Coach, you kind of agree that is where this team needs to get to, should get to, whatever description word you want to put in there?
Throwing in there winning the IRC and and then being in a spot to compete for that trip to state. I'd say those are the goals.
So IRC, who's the main competition? Who are we looking at? Obviously, you've done the homework on it, I'm sure, Coach.
I'm gonna say Hibbing. Hibbing's still gonna be the one, the hump to get over. I like our chances playing them. I like how we played against them this summer. I think we know what they have going on, and I think, especially like I said, if we're in shape, I think if we're in the shape that I'd like to see us get into, I think it's going to be other teams needing to think about what they're going to do with us, not the other way around.
There always seems to be a bump in the road in the IRC. It's tough to run the table, go perfect, go 10-0. It's tough to do that. Is there another team out there besides Hibbing, Emma, that maybe that coach is maybe glossing over a little bit? Who's out there maybe that maybe you owe some payback to or something?
Well, for me, Eveleth a little scares me just a little bit. I mean, I know they lost a lot of girls, but we see them so much, and they know us so well, and it's really hard to get our plays working when they know everything. So, I don't know. They just kind of come up in the back of my head when I think IRC.
Coach, anybody else that I'm missing there?
Definitely got to throw Virginia in there. Definitely got to throw Deer River in there. Mesabi East, they lost their entire team, but they do have 2 young girls that are very good basketball players that we'll see what they turn into as they get older. So no, definitely the IRC is definitely not a cakewalk. It's just something it's a goal that I think we should have.
Let's talk about the section a little bit. Who are the teams out there in the section that early on are getting your notice, and as far as teams that if we get a chance to go watch them, we're going to go watch them, or if we could get a chance to play them, we'd add them to the schedule in a heartbeat.
Well, we know we're going down to ESCO in January, and that's always, ESCO's always tough basketball. Pequot, that they're in there. Those are the 2, those are the big ones that stick in my mind. When we want to get to the end, it's going to be one of those teams down the road.
Let's talk about personnel, Emma. This is a team that I'm sure a lot of people maybe are aware of because of, we really only lost 1 senior off last year's team, as far as my memory recalls. You guys are shaking your head at me, so that's a good sign. Who maybe is a little bit of a surprise? Maybe that's somebody that I wouldn't know necessarily that you think is going to be getting some substantial minutes this year that maybe hasn't in the past.
I'd say probably Libby Miggins and Delilah St. Peter. Libby's definitely shown a lot of improvements over the summer, and just this last week of practice. Delilah's always been a good ball player, and I think she got her little shoot of faith last year at the end of the year, and hopefully that gives her enough confidence to step out this year.
Coach, who else might we be seeing? Because you take last year's team and you look at it, and like I said, you really only lose one person, so it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to find some time to get other girls in there.
Right. Well, the biggest one probably that not having last year is Bianca Carlson's back out. Makes a huge difference for us inside on the boards and all that. Makes us way deeper in that position. Allows some of our players like Emma or Janet to play other positions as well. So picking Bianca back is a huge thing. We have a lot of girls though that are looking pretty good. We have some juniors that haven't seen a lot of varsity time in the past, but their shots are looking really good right now. That hopefully we'll have some situations where they're going to be able to contribute. And there's some other young girls coming along that I think they're young, but they're good little athletes, and especially on the defensive side of the ball, there might be some situations where I think they're going to be able to help us out.
Let's talk about. You talked about Bianca coming back. We talked about all the wealth of experience. Does that? You talked earlier about being able to run and being able to play half court. Does having Bianca back in the mix? Because, and I'll say it this way, because she can play with her back to the basket, or she maybe likes to play with her back to the basket, where some of the other players like Emma and these other players like to face up, put the ball on the floor, and do those kinds of things. Does this make you more multi-dimensional and more difficult to cover?
Absolutely, I think so. She likes to play under the basket. She likes to post up, but she's a big post player that we can have in there, but also doesn't take away anything else that we do, because that girl could move for a big girl. We can definitely play full court with her. She loves to run the court and transition in that. So, yeah, it just makes us better at all aspects of the game. And having another player that I don't know at the moment who our starting five is going to be, because we have 7-8 players that would be the starting five for most teams up here. I think we have some great athletes.
So you're saying to me that there could be some disappointed people that they're not getting their name penciled in at the starting lineup, but they know they're going in the first 2 or 3 minutes probably, right?
I like to think they're not going to be disappointed, but that'll be on me to see if we can get everyone to buy into what we're trying to do. And I haven't decided if it's going to be a rotating thing, or if we're going to start people depending on who we're playing and how we match up, or if it's better to just stick with getting into a rotation that we're used to and have that consistency part of it. That's something that we'll play around with in the scrimmage today, and then we'll see how it goes in the first few games, and that's something we're just going to have to kind of figure out as the season starts to get going.
Tough to put 8 names in 5 spots. I agree. Yeah. Emma, style of basketball. You got all this talent. All these girls out. Up tempo, half court. Which one, and why?
For me, I think it's always fun to get out and run, but at the same time, I know you want me to pick one, but
well, of course I want you to pick one. Yes.
It's really fun to just break it down and run the plays too. So I'd probably have to pick half court. Just because our size and stuff.
And is there, I always look at coaches, and there's always those teams that want to run and can play up tempo, but when it gets down towards the end of the second half and the game's on the line, you're probably going to have to find a way to get it done half court. Am I right on that, Coach?
I'd agree with you, yes.
So it really becomes important. What's the biggest game of the year, Emma? What game? Give me one. You can't pick multiple. Who's the biggest game on the schedule out of the 24, 25?
We're at 24 at the moment.
24 game schedule. Which one's the biggest one?
I'd like to see how we do against ESCO.
ESCO? Coach, you got one. I know we're not supposed to. Coaches aren't supposed to do that, but you got to have one circle. MIB. Those are the two answers I expect. I mean, those are the two teams that are out there that are consistently at the top of their sections, going to state and doing that. It's a measuring stick.
Absolutely. And the other thing about MIB for us is, not saying that anything would be easier for sure, but the entire time these girls have been coming up, MIB's always been 1 year ahead as far as where their top athletes are at. I want to beat them when the top athletes are there.
I like that. Emma, you got a last word for us?
No, that's it.
No predictions?
I think we're going to have a really great year.
That's what I wanted to hear. Guys, I want to thank you for your time. Best of luck in the 2016-2017 season.
Thank you.
Head coach Jay Boyle and Emma Gilbert joining me here on Coach.
Well, welcome back to Coach's Corner for our last segment, and thanks again to head coach George McDonald for coming in. That extended interview was awesome. We had a good chat. Always good to sit down with George. You would think with us working in the same building would have time to chat, but not so. I haven't seen George in quite a while, so it was good to get a chance to sit down and chat with him. And of course, I appreciate the time with Jay Boyle and Emma Gilbert, as they are going to be in Virginia here just in a few moments, getting their scrimmage underway. So again, thanks to them for doing those interviews. Let's wrap up the past week. It was a short week as far as news going on locally, but of course it was big news. The Bronco girls swimming and diving team last Saturday down in Duluth, they took third place as a team at the Section 7A meet, as they were behind Hibbing and Mesabi East, who were in first and second. Top finishers for the girls last week, of course, Emily Sari setting a new school record in the 100-yard breaststroke for the second time over the weekend with a time of 1 minute 10.89 seconds. She wins the section title, qualified for the state meet for the third time in four years. Talking about big things that happened, Alyssa Mathis, just a second-year diver. She takes third place in the section, qualifies for the state meet. What a great run for her as a senior, and an opportunity to do that. A couple of girls just missed out getting to the state meet. Anna Early took third in the 100-yard breaststroke. Caroline Stone took third in the 200 IM, so they were just one spot off. They take 4 divers and only 2 swimmers, in case you are questioning about that. Caroline Stone also took 5th in the 100-yard backstroke. Emma Meisner took 4th in the 100 butterfly, 5th place for the 200 medley relay, and 5th place for the 200 free relay, as they set another school record. They set it on Thursday in the prelims. They broke it again with a 1:45.09. And Anna Early, Emma Meisner, Caroline Stone, and Claire Herzig, the members of that record time. The Bronco bowling team was at home last Saturday for their North Central Conference tournament. They win it by defeating Grand Rapids and Hibbing, and with that conference win, they qualify for the state tournament on December 3rd in Minneapolis. No games in the area on Sunday or Monday. Tuesday saw the Bronco girls hockey team open their 16-17 campaign with a 10-1 loss to Roseau. Lexi Erickson scored the lone goal with the assist going to Lexi Edwards. Kalea McConnell stopped 44 of 54 shots. She was very, very busy. Roseau, one of those teams that you want to keep an eye on heading into February. They are going to do probably some damage in Section 8-2A. On Wednesday, Alyssa Mathis took part in the state diving meet. She took 29th place. On Thursday, Emily Sari swam in the 100-yard breaststroke. She took a time of 1:12.94 and got 26th place. Congratulations again to both those girls. Can't say it enough on the accomplishment of making it to a state meet. The girls hockey team had their second game of the season, a game you could have heard on K104 and on KSDMradio.com. They took on North Shore, the combination of Silver Bay, Two Harbors, and Cook County. And after a slow start to the game, Gina Orn and Grace Bragg would score to give the Broncos a 2-0 lead after a period. Then it would become the Amber Thielander and Lexi Edwards show. Don't mean to narrow it down to that, but they scored the last 7 goals, so that has a lot to do with it, as Amber Thielander scored 4 times. She had a pair of assists for a 6-point night, and Lexi Edwards had a hat trick but go along with an assist as they each scored on the power play, each scored in a 4-on-4 situation, they each scored in a 5-on-5 situation. So that number one line of Thielander, Edwards, and Erickson, Thielander, Edwards, and Erickson, did a very nice job on Thursday night in that 9-0 win over North Shore. Lexi Erickson and Marissa Carey had a pair of assists, and goalie Grace Wagner, she gets the shutout with 13 saves in net. Last night, the Rainy River basketball teams were supposed to be playing in Ely. That tournament that they were supposed to be playing in over the past 2 days were canceled and or postponed. The men will make up the game this coming Monday against Itasca. The women a week from Tuesday down at Itasca at 5 o'clock. Other games of interest last night around the area. The Gopher men's basketball team wins. The Gopher women's basketball team wins. The women's hockey team for the Gophers tied and the men lost. UMD won in men's hockey and in women's hockey as they defeated the number 1 team in Wisconsin. And so we've got those things going on. What's going on this coming week? Well, it's a pretty light schedule again, with Thanksgiving being on Thursday and everything else. As I mentioned, on Monday, the Itasca men will be down in Grand Rapids to take on Itasca at 5:30. That's the only game going on Monday. Tuesday, you'll see the Bronco girls hockey team take their 1-1 record. They've been on the road, and it's a long one down to Park Rapids to take on Park Rapids area. That game scheduled to start at 7:30. No JV game that night, only a varsity game. Nothing going on Wednesday or Thursday, and then Friday, the Bronco hockey team gets their season started as they host the team from the Iron Range, the Virginia Blue Devils, on Friday. Then they get St. Paul Harding on Saturday. Next Saturday, also the couple of individual bowlers will be in the cities next week as they qualified for the individual state tournament, and of course we'll keep up to date on what they are doing down there as well. We got to get out of the way. It's near the 10 o'clock hour for the news and everything else. Again, thanks to my guests. Thanks to everybody here at Hardee's for taking care of our guests as they always do. Dave and his staff, can't say enough thank yous to them. Thanks to Aaron back at the station pushing all the buttons. But most of all, thank you for listening to Coach's Corner, live from Hardee's on K104 and online at KSDM Radio.